Have you ever made a decision and then you found out later it was actually God that led you to make that decision? That's what happened to Dr. Graber, and Eric was really glad.
Dr. Lewis Graber was at a medical conference in Milwaukee. He looked at his watch. He wondered if he had time to take in that last lecture before he went back to Omaha. He was doubtful. Meanwhile, back in Omaha, it was a sweltering day. There was a young man who was a college student working on the railroad tracks as a summer job, driving this huge contraption. It sprayed weeds on both sides of the tracks. All of a sudden, the contraption stopped. He climbed down and he said, "It must be that darn starter cable." And he slipped underneath. And then the unimaginable happened. That huge machine rolled back on him and crushed him. Somebody spotted the accident. They called 911. And as doctors were rushing him into the emergency room trying to figure out what else could go wrong, the worst went wrong. He had a ruptured liver. They tell me that a ruptured liver is almost always fatal because it's almost impossible to suture. But at that moment, an incredible Godwink link came into Eric Fellman's life, bursting into the operating room. He had just gotten back from Milwaukee, and he did take in that last lecture. And it was a lecture about how to repair a ruptured liver. Deftly, Dr. Graber applied the new instructions, and he saved Eric Fellman's life. Wow, what a Godwink.
Isn't it amazing? Dr. Graber makes a decision to attend one last lecture, and that lecture is the lecture that he needed to save Eric's life. That's a Godwink. It happens all the time. It happens in the Bible. We have so many Godwinks in the Bible. There was a famine in Israel one time, and Elijah, God's prophet, was beside a brook, and God was providing water from that brook for him, but the brook dried up. And so God told him to go to a certain city, and a widow would provide for him. Now, I want you to think about this. So he goes to this city, and he asks this widow to make him something to eat. And she says, "I just have a little bit of food left. I'm gathering some sticks for a fire, and my son and I are going to eat this last meal, and it's the last meal that we have." But Elijah says to her, "Prepare a meal for me first." I would think that widow thought, "Didn't you hear what I said? This is all the food that we have." But she did it anyway. And when she did, the Bible says that she had just a little bit of flour, a little bin of flour, and a little jar of oil. And that jar of oil and that bin of flour did not dry up, did not go away. It was there until the famine was over. What's impossible with man is possible with God. And I want you to know that whatever you're facing right now, God is able. He's able and willing to do a miracle in your life. He's able to do a Godwink for you, just like he did with Dr. Graber and with Eric. You see, God actually sent Elijah to the widow, not to provide for Elijah, but to provide for her and her son. And he wants to do the same thing for you.